Thank you guys from both. Here we go. Hold on just a second. But I thank you for joining me. I say both because I also have my TikTok crew on off. Sometimes you have problems with this. Tonight, I'm going to discuss something individually. I don't have my trusty sidekick Solomon on tonight, but I'm going to talk about several different things. Okay. Uh, Confuse my unorthodox way that um, we're doing this with interruptions. It may be, and without any form of any form of not formatting, but any form of I guess script, right? But I guess that's good. That's how I started off on TikTok. And if you guys will allow me, I'd like to give you some organic thoughts, and hopefully these organic thoughts will lead to some insight that would add some kind of direction to some people's lives by telling you about my life or a little about my life. So everyone needs to know that I am live on my studio at the Community Read site, and I am live on TikTok. Okay. And uh, I'm going to take some questions, but I'm also going to lay some things out. Okay. I told my son when he was probably 10 years old, my son had a habit of telling me, I know that already. Okay. Or saying things like, um, you know, yeah, well, I guess the best way I can say it, like he understood things already. The benefit of not only being an older person, because like you young people say so often, you can be an old fool, okay? But some of us, even though we've had times of foolishness in our lives, we've made some wise decisions. And I think young people don't recognize that when you have older people or middle-aged people, and in my case, available to lend an ear to what's going on in your life, then it's valuable to listen. Uh, History is in books, but more than history, perspectives are in books. Meaning, when you read a book, it was somebody that could afford to express their opinion in written form. Doesn't have to be true, doesn't even directly relate to you and your condition, but it's their opinion. But when you have the benefit of an older person in your life or a middle aged person in their life, it's beneficial to listen. You have to understand and recognize that it's also scary for us. I have children, and in knowing those children and some of the mistakes they made and may continue to make is concerning to me because I can see past where they can see. Do you understand? The benefit of being a middle aged 53 to 54-year-old man I can see where I can see all your blind spots, as I discussed that the other day. And if you're walking a road that I've walked or that I've seen someone walk before, I can tell you where it's going. And so there's a benefit in wisdom. And in saying that, someone told me, 3 years ago, you should go on this platform called TikTok. It was somebody that I trusted at the time and somebody that believed I had a level of wisdom to share with people. And I'm not bragging on myself, but that has paid off. I've always been a bit of as my son says, I've always been a teacher. It's just who I am. I am not a, a teacher in education. I build things for a living. I develop things for a living. I build hotels and schools and hospitals and football stadiums and control rooms and stuff like that. But I've always been a teacher. It is my nature to teach. And what I mean by that is all of us have gifts when we communicate, but not all people communicate as teachers, right? So it's just something I did and that took off. And what do I mean by that? Several times I've been on and off TikTok, and the most followers I've had is 2 million. I've had up to 2 million followers. That being said, uh, tonight I wanted to come on and give you guys an overall view and perspective of what I believe a successful human being is. And I'm going to go into some discussion with you guys because some of you may think that life is ambiguous. You know, you think some of our lives and some of your lives, it has clarity in different aspects and points of it. So let me give an example. If you're a young person that has an educated father, you need to understand that you only have one perspective of your father, your mother. So let's say both of your parents are educated, right? Let's take the Cosby family, for instance. Both of them are educated. They go to college, they graduate, they tell their children, you're going to college, you're going to graduate. They give them the blueprint to what they identify as success. So they go to college and they graduate, not realizing that's only one phase in their lives. Okay, that's only one phase in your life.
I didn't get that.
And so what happens is it's a level, there's a level of understanding that you realize, and then there's levels that you don't realize. Okay. But that person that graduates from college thinks he's successful. There's another perspective to that. Someone whose family has money or a little money, and they stay in the family business. There's a level of success to that. But all of us that have lived understand now, specifically if you lived to 30 years old, what you have from the time that you're born to 18, even to 20, sometimes at 25 is not reality. It's what you're given. It's the platform that you stand on. And all of us are given different platforms, and some of us haven't been given any platform and have still succeeded, right? My goal when I communicate with you guys is not ambiguous. So you might have a level of understanding based on your foundation, but most of us still live an ambiguous life. We still have no direction beyond what we were taught. So that job, get married, and there's a lot of in between. And I've been fortunate to have the ability to speak for the in between. Today is the day that I reach out to my mentees. So I send 250 emails out. Okay. And I send all the emails or texts out to them. And essentially, I give them insight on whatever the Lord is telling me about them. Now, I am not a minister. I'm not a minister. But I do have a gift that anyone that I get close to or that I'm involved with, I can see things about you. Now, some of you misunderstand that. Some of you don't know it. But I guarantee if you have the opportunity to speak to some of my mentees, they'll tell you the Lord tells me what they tell them. And it's my job just to reaffirm what God has told me. Right? That being said, one of the things that I wish that anybody that's listening to the sound of my voice, if you don't have it in your father, if you don't have it in your mother, find a mentor. If you don't have it in your big brother or big sister, find a mentor. A mentor allows you to cover your blind spots. He watches out for it. A mentor is not a coach. He's not somebody that cheers you on, right? Sometimes he's somebody that cusses you out. But in reality, what he really is the person that troubleshoots who you say you are. Let me get that back to y'all. Let me give you this definitive. A lot of you go to therapy. I hear people say they go to therapy. I go to therapy. Do you know your therapist is only as honest as you are with them? Your therapist is only as honest as you are to them. A lot of y'all know that. A lot of you in marriages right now where you've been in therapy for years and nothing has changed. See, that's the first problem. After seeing a therapist, if you're comfortable, then there's a problem. But you're comfortable because you don't have to change. See, a therapist isn't there to make you change. A therapist is simply as a reflection of whatever truth you tell her. So if you're lying to your therapist, she'll never know. It's not her job to determine what's true or false. See, that's what people don't understand. People are in relationships, and people even know people that are in therapy, and they assume that they're telling the therapist the truth. That's not necessarily the situation. That's why they don't evolve anything. All you tell the therapist, this is who I want to be. Okay, who are you now? See, that's not a question that a therapist asks. A therapist simply allows you to see a version of yourself. That's their only job. That's why they say, well, what do you think? That's what therapists say over there. Well, what do you think? Because they're going to make you reflect on yourself. But what if you're telling the therapist? What if you're not telling the therapist the truth? Then you'll never see yourself. So in mentoring, you can ask anyone who's left. Well, not many people have left. Anyone that's kicked out. The people that I kicked out would never reflect on themselves because a mentor is not a coach. He's not a therapist. He's a troubleshooter. I'm not troubleshooting anything if you're not telling me the truth because we're working with false information. Do you understand? And if you're not willing to work on yourself, then I can't mentor you. Mentor you to what? Another lie? No. See, here's the thing about it. In people's lives, and I don't want to get off because I'm talking about something. In people's lives, they build mechanisms. See, some of us have been so traumatized by situations that we've developed these mechanisms to protect us. They started a long time ago when we were little. We would tell ourselves lies. We would, whatever we would do. And if you tell yourself a lie, you're willing to tell everybody else a lie. So here's what happens. In life, you begin to meet genuine people because there are frames in our lives where we're given the opportunity to step out from our narcissistic characteristics that we built up to protect ourselves, and we're given genuine people. But here's what I'm going to tell you. And I've said this only to women before, but I'm telling this to everybody. When you meet genuine people, either let them go or be willing to change. And you're not changing for the person, you're changing with that person. See, it's impossible to change by yourself. Now, you got to do the work by yourself, but it's impossible to change by yourself. because you can't see yourself, but you know when you're affecting people. See, that's the narcissistic trait. When people, it's what you young people call gaslighting. It's the narcissistic trait that doesn't allow you to reflect on yourself. It's a protective mechanism. And all of us who've had trauma have had it or still have it. So it's a protective mechanism. But here's what I'm telling you. When God sees fit to bring somebody in your life that's a good person, you better treat them right. Because when you don't, all you're dealing with, you're building up spiritual, psychological, and emotional trauma more than you've already had. Now, let me backtrack to the spiritual. What does that mean? I've told women this before, now I'm telling men. The more people you damage with your trauma, the fewer people God gonna introduce you to. Now, we started this conversation with me telling you guys I'm giving you the benefit of my wisdom. When I wasn't willing to do right by people and fix myself and wanted to, with my narcissistic traits, wanted to stay with that part of that trauma that I wanted with me, whether it was anger, whatever it was, right? And I was damaging people, God started to stop letting me meet people. In fact, at one point, he kept everybody away from me and isolated me until I was willing to listen to him. Okay? So you guys stop doing that. You guys stop doing that. Stop hurting these people and then doing what you guys say, gaslight them. Okay? That's damage in the Black community. We have a lot of trauma that we're unwilling to release. Okay? Now, again, the benefit of my wisdom, right? I was a young kid growing up in a little town in Louisiana that was voraciously racist. When I say voraciously racist, this town was where you can look up a book. Some of you know who David Duke is. David Duke was a choir boy compared to the grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, who was, look, the entire foundation of the Ku Klux Klan was in our community. Okay? I asked myself as a kid, why in the world would Black people come here to live? It doesn't even make, and I've even had people attempt to explain it to me. Nobody can give a comprehensive explanation to why Black people would move there. But this is just telling you a little about me. I grew up, and from the time I knew my mother, I was abused by her. I don't mean sexually. She wasn't abusive like that. She was a type of person that thought physical contact with fists, hand, whatever, belt was a means of communication. No talking. I can literally tell you guys, I've had 3 conversations with my mother in my entire life. Some of you don't believe that. My mother died in 2016. Okay. I've had 3 conversations with her in my life where, hello, how are you? What's going on? 3. Everything else was hitting me or getting me directions. Period. Okay. She was not a good person. Right. Then you grow up in an environment, a weird environment where there are conflicting polarities as it relates to family. Okay. I grew up with what I identify as a bunch of false good people in my life. I always say this. If you got the right heart, God will put replacements in your life. What do I mean by that? I had a replacement grandfather. I had a replacement mother. I had a replacement aunt. I had like 5 or 6 replacement aunts, right? And on the other side, I got to say this, on both sides of the fence, I had good aunties. I had damn good aunties. I had aunties that have been supportive in my life in different characterizations of my life. Because of the abuse of my mother, I built up a scab called lying. Okay? Not lying. I'm gonna say it like my father said, lying. Okay. I would lie as a kid, I would lie. And then when you grow up, even things that are real, you lie about. Okay. Because here's the thing about it. I learned long ago whether I told the truth or whether I lied, I was gonna get in trouble. That's what I learned from my mother. Now, my father was the protector. Why you hitting that boy? He can't learn anything with you hitting him, and that kind of person. But here's the thing about it: you chose to marry this one. Now, I wouldn't be here if they wouldn't have gotten together. But my point is, it created a bunch of trauma in my life, a bunch of bad residuals, right? But at some point, I recognized, just like you guys have, the residuals of my trauma, right? But my stubbornness wouldn't allow me to admit it. It wouldn't allow me to love people, because the only love I understood was physical contact. So whether it was sex or abuse. Do you understand? So it was easy for me to have sex with a woman. But when it was time for me to show who I really was, a loving, happy young man, I couldn't do that. So then my first wife had to suffer through everything I was and everything I wasn't. So this created the younger version of myself, a driven, focused, do anything to succeed kind of person. Unfortunately, that relationship that I had with God in my youth couldn't stand that. And what do I mean by that? I don't mean in the derogatory term, roll your eyes, I can't stand it. I mean, I couldn't stand, you can't stand in the presence of God and not be a person of integrity. I couldn't say that. And in fact, I didn't have a version or an understanding of God that would allow me to stand in front of him. In my life, God has always been a conflict to what I wanted to do. What do you mean by that, Mr. Reed? The same thing that I write in my book, and everything that I'm telling you guys right now is going to be in my book. There was two things combating me. Religion, well, three things: religion, trauma, and the framework of the world. Religion, trauma, and the framework of the world. Young Black people are told a theory, a story, a metaphor, and a tall tale about the framework of the world. Okay? It's almost like we're taught about another Santa Claus when we're told about the world. Example, when I was a kid, they would tell you, you can go out, you can do anything. Okay? I can do anything except walk down the street. I can do anything except not speak to a white person. I can do anything but not do what I'm told to do. I can do anything, but I got to overcome being afraid of the police. I can do anything. Do you get my drift? Okay? We're told a framework of the world that's not real. And we're only told the truth when we combat the truth. For example, Mama, I remember growing up and hearing people say, Mama, I tried out for cheerleaders. And then your mama tell you, girl, you knew you wasn't going to ever make no cheerleader at that school. What do you mean, Mama? You know them white people don't like you. Y'all know what I'm talking about. All these little, truths, but you telling me the metaphor. Santa Claus exists, but I bought these presents. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so, framework. We're not taught the real framework of the world, Black people. And if we are, we taught it on the side. Oh, you got to act like this. Well, Daddy, and there's never a way to overcome it. And I don't mean in the sense the old adages, we shall overcome. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about overcoming is essentially living in the world unafraid, focused, protective of one another, and abundant. Black people have never had a plan to do that, right? You guys asked me, and this is a side note, you asked me, why am I so vehemently against this guy, Hope Bryant? Why? Because he's bullshit. He's bullshit. Where does he even come from? Here's another story. He's not organic. He's not online communicating and gaining the trust of people. He's coming on with famous people. He started off with a bunch of famous Caucasians. And now he's moving with the famous Negroes. Somebody else without a plan. Black people don't need a savior anymore. We don't need a savior anymore. We need a plan to grow an economy internally to make us a strong monolithic group that will reverberate out throughout history, that our lineages can live a comfortable life like these other cultures are doing. Create our own subculture within the culture of the world, whether it's in the United States or United States anywhere, right? But one of the reasons we can't do that is because we can't see the real framework of the world. We don't want to look at the world in reality. We want to look at the world through metaphors in the Bible. Look, I posted something today that some of y'all saw, okay, about the Bible, right? And specifically it was about Jesus. And all I got was this. I talked about a plan. Jesus ain't a plan, okay? All I got was, I feel sorry for you. You're just, God, your soul is, I'm like, man, okay, you said all that, but you still didn't give a plan. Can anybody tell me online, what is Jesus' plan? What is Jesus' plan? Can anybody tell me what Jesus' plan is? Oh, it's to get us all and go to heaven. Okay, what we're going to do while we're here? Oh, the pastors who have no business degree, have no businesses except the church, and the church ain't a business. It's a place that you just give money and pay them. Nothing grows, right? And you get your money out of heaven, right? No, that's not how it works. Even with God, you have a return. See, that's how I know people don't know God. They just say Jesus. All I'm going to do is say Jesus, and the world's going to change. No, it's not. Show me where it has. I want one person to show me where Jesus has changed the world for Black people. And I don't give me no scripture, because there's no scripture you can give me that you can articulate to me that will tell me that. None, because it doesn't exist. You can be as emotional as you want to about what I said, and it's still the truth. But again, that's another thing we don't want. Don't tell us the truth. But in order to see the framework of the world, you have to accept the truth. So those of you, I was talking about this the other day. We had a podcast yesterday, and it'll be coming out Wednesday, and we discussed that. There are going to be some people that we're going to have to leave behind. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've left people behind all my life. I don't have a problem doing that. You guys believe whatever you want to believe, but we don't need you. So, good riddance. That being said, that's the first thing, the framework. The second thing is that we need to understand that, well, first of all, we need to understand that we need mechanisms to create access to money. See, y'all have always heard we don't have access to money. You've never heard someone say we have to create mechanisms. Okay? Mechanism is a vehicle that creates an opportunity. I'm going to say that again. A mechanism is a vehicle that creates an opportunity. I'm going to give you an example. Okay? I'm going to give you two examples. I'll give you a bad example. I'm going to give you a good example. The other day, I was discussing with an African gentleman, very intelligent African gentleman. I said, you know what? I said, There are other continents coming over to Africa, and they're investing in Africa right now. I said they're building roads, they're building hotels, they're building infrastructure for Africa. They're even doing mineral deals. Now, even though they're doing mineral deals with Africa, all it's going to do is slowly build Africa's infrastructure and create a bunch of large companies. Okay. It is not going to help the people on the ground and grow small businesses. You have people in Africa or people from Africa that would go back that are doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, right? Project managers, construction managers. But they can't take advantage of the boom that's going on in their own country. Okay. Why? Because they don't have the initial foundational operation investment that it would take to start their own company. Now, let me explain something to you. These companies are coming in and they are negotiating with the government these projects, but they're bringing their own people, own project managers, engineers, architects to do the work. If they had a bond system, do you guys know what a bond system is? It's not a bond system like you would recognize a bond system in a school district or for a particular project, but it is. It's a system that would allow people to invest in this particular project from all over the world, but it would be individuals. So let's say the country of Rwanda or the country of Ghana. If the country of Ghana said, hey, we're issuing national bonds, and the national bond is covered by Lloyd's of London. Okay, Lloyd's of London is a big bank that does these huge insurance policies. And they say, we're going to cover this, right? Why are they going to cover it? They're going to cover it because they know people are going to give their money. They know the work's going to be done, right? They know all this stuff. But the bond would go out to the African diaspora. Now think about that. All the African projects, the wastewater treatment plants, the subdivisions, the roadways, eventually all of the distribution plants, all of this stuff, right? Not only in one country, Ghana, but all over the continent, because the continent is short of all that, right? That being said, that is creating ability to access to funding, not looking for funding. Where are we going to get the funding to do it? We're going to get it out of our pockets. We're going to take it out of our pockets and we're going to get that. This is the same thing we're doing with the community REIT. That's why I'm talking now. That's why I have the ability to talk now. The community REIT's doing the same thing. You guys and me are going to leverage the community REIT. 40,000 people giving $500. We're going to go all over the world, including Africa, and develop hospitality resorts. Okay? What is the difference? There's no difference. So what we're doing in the community REIT is creating the opportunity. Forget wealth. Forget wealth. Okay? Not everybody's going to get wealthy. Not everybody's going to get wealthy. But I guarantee you'll never have to worry about money again. I guarantee you'll never have to worry about income again. I guarantee that. Let me explain something to you. The generation right now, does anybody know why the generation right now is called the baby boomers? And they're the generation that controls more wealth than any generation that's ever existed? Does anybody know the answer to that? Does anybody know the answer to that? No, you don't. World War I, World War II, they sold bonds. They sold bonds. All of these companies you see, Southwestern Bell, Exxon Mobil, Chevron, all these companies started when the baby boomers were young. And what did they do? Remember, at that time, that's when America wasn't America. America was a few buildings and nothing else. See, some of you don't realize within that 200 years and those weird ass wars, civil wars, there were some major corporations built. Starting from cotton, coffee, and all the stuff our ancestors did. We created, watch this, just like I'm telling you guys with the community read, we created what? The startup funding. Black people created the startup funding for the entire world, not just the United States, the entire world. Okay? They also used our assets from our home continent, Africa, to leverage this bond. Right? So we think in our minds that a certain group created money. Think about it. When we think of money, the first thing is, how am I going to make some money? What do you mean, how are you going to make some money? You're going to invest in somebody else's idea. We never think about that, though. We never think about, we got an engineer down the street that works in procurement for ExxonMobil. He can get projects, but nobody's going to invest in him. Why? Because he's Black. That's the next step of the truth. Remember, we believe in truth, right? So now that we created access to money, what is the next problem? What is the next problem, Davon? What's the next problem? The problem is trust. The problem is trust. The problem is trust. Sometimes, the last problem, you can be told something so long you begin to believe it. You guys agree? You can be told the perspective of your own people so many times, it begins to resonate in you about your own people. Listen to this. I'm going to ask you guys a question. How many Black people do you know personally that are thieves? Come on now. It's time to get real now as a people. It's time to get real. We're about to do something. So how many Black people that you know are really thieves? In your entire life, you might know 2 people that really are thieves. 2 people. You might know 2 people that commit crimes. Be honest. Oh, my cousin, man. That's that one person. How many of you have done deals with our people and gotten screwed over? That probably happened once or twice. How many deals have you actually done? And you look at the other community. I can tell you personally, I've gotten screwed over from the other community many times more. But here's the thing about it. That one deal I did with that Caucasian person that made me money, I forget about all them other deals. But you have to realize this, and this is a truth here. Okay, we're talking about the truth. How much access, no matter how successful a Black person is, how much access do they really have? Come on, guys, be real with me. How many banks can you? That's why deals like that's why those frauds that come on, where they say go to Navy Bank and you can get money. Just go to Navy Bank, bro. Navy Bank. How many of y'all did that? Oh, just go to Navy Bank. Why do you think they can get away with scams with us like that? Because we have so little access to anything. Forget money, okay? Because money is the least of your problem. Money is an investment. Money is a tool to invest. Money isn't an investment. Money is a tool to invest. So how do we create money? Well, we got to have mechanisms and opportunities to invest in. Our opportunity to invest in is the community REIT, a group of 40,000 people coming together to invest in a hospitality REIT. We've been working on this for 6 months. and it's about to come to fruition in September. We have the fifth largest hotel group in the world. We have the number one architectural firm in the world. We have the 10th largest construction management firm in the world. All these people are on board and ready for us to go. All we need is the money. That's all we need. What did I just say? Y'all didn't hear anything I just said. I know y'all didn't. When I started this conversation, I said, money is the least of your worries. Black people don't have a mechanism or a plan that would allow them to use their money. That's what we don't have. A plan. Y'all got a savior. Y'all love y'all savior. Oh, I love Jesus with all my heart. Why? Okay, he saved your soul. What else you got? I get it. You saved now. But what's the plan after salvation? That's where we stop. Come on, man. We talking about truth. That's where we stop. That's where we stop. And we're fine with that. I'm saved now, so I can still treat black people like I used to treat them. Stay away from them. I'm going to move way out here with my good job. The other black people are going to stay ghetto and acting a fool and listen to rap music and saturating their minds with a bunch of foolishness. They're fine with that. Here's the thing about it. Truth. We're talking truth, right? We're talking truth. You always going to have ghetto-ass people. Come on, like the screen if y'all know I'm telling the truth. We always going to have ghetto-ass people. We always going to have people that do dirt. We always going to have uppity people. We're always going to have uppity people. Come on. I'm uppity than some people. People call me, what's the word they use? Bougie, right? Okay. Take all of us and jealous together. That's okay. We still black. We have one thing in common. We black. And what's crazy is that's enough for everybody else except us. Come on now, you know I'm telling the truth. That's enough for everybody else except us. That ain't enough for us. The fact that everybody rejects us ought to tell us that. We begin to think that people working together is racist. Come on, Rashawn. We begin to think other groups working together is racist. When Mexicans give Mexicans jobs, what we say? Man, that's racist. They could have gave me an opportunity. They did give somebody an opportunity, but it wasn't you. It's not racist to help your community, but we're so psychologically defrauding ourselves that we believe that helping one another is racist. We actually go on TV and say things like, well, we can't be reverse racist. Yes, we can. And here's what's going to knock y'all out. I suggest we do. Okay, what do I mean by racist? Because I don't want TikTok to kick me off, and I don't want YouTube to kick me off. Racist is the same thing that everybody else does. Support their own. Invest in their own. Focus on their own. Anyone who says, well, the world's not doing that, you crazy. Let me give an example. Why is there always one Hispanic girl in a group of Caucasian girls? Why is there only one black boy in a group of Caucasian boys? One Asian, one. I'm talking about in those groups that have chosen to step outside of their culture, right? Of course, we got to work in the world with all types of people. But when you don't take your culture with you, then you've chosen something else. And it's not racist. It is not racist for a Mexican to help a Mexican. What are you talking about? That's his brother. That's his cousin. That's his uncle. They have something in common. We do too. We just don't want the thing we have in common together, being black. And don't you think that's sick? It's not racist that white people help one another. It's not racist that white people won't help us. Oh, y'all don't want to hear that. It's not racist that white people don't. You can keep asking for reparations for what? We were part of their manifest destiny. I've taught you guys that. The community REIT is our manifest destiny. And we don't have to harm anybody. All we have to do is give money together. Excuse me, let me scratch that and stop saying that. All we have to do is pool money together. We don't have to look, giving money as a businessman, giving money is something I never do. I give money away charitably. But giving money is something I never do. Investing money is what I do. On the show the other day, and you guys go and watch it. It's on YouTube, The Community REIT. It should be out Wednesday. In the conversation, the gentleman says something that is very important, and it's one of the reasons you followers of mine have been angry at me. Mr. Reed, hurry up and put this together. Hurry up and do this, that, and the other. What you don't understand is when you're establishing a company, now I've never built a $3.6 billion company, but I have built a company that did revenue of $150 million. And when I tell you, the larger the landscape of the company, the bigger the prospectus is. The prospectus is bigger because there are more steps within the organization of the company. There are progressions in there. There are changes in not only executive staff, but there are changes in the board. There's how stock is distributed from major stockholder, common stock, all these different things that I have to know and has to be in a contract. So you don't rush things like this. This is how things go awry. Black people, stop being quick to give your money. Okay? When you're excited. See, that's that church thing in y'all. Oh, we excited. No, I don't want you to be excited. See how I'm talking right now? This is how I talk all the time. Because when you're excited, you react emotionally. Okay? I don't want you guys to do that. Try everything. Hey, Mr. Reed, what about this? 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 Ask as many questions you can. I've had people asking me questions for 6 months. It ain't one question I hadn't heard. I actually had someone try that didn't even know what I did, try to question and didn't have the knowledge to question. You know, and I don't mean question my knowledge or anything like that. You know how you read a book and you think you know more than what you know? I kind of had that happen. I wasn't frustrated at them, but I had to let them know, hold on a second, bro. All you know is what I've told you and directed you to. Right? Don't. But this is why, if anybody can remember that's followed me for a while, this is why I never rushed anything. This is why I told you guys that we are not going to do anything without signing a non-disclosure. Now, I'm glad I said that as well. Everybody's going to have the non-disclosure signed by the end of next month, because if you don't, you're no longer going to be subject to the conversations. You'll be subject to stuff that I'll say on TikTok. You'll be subject to stuff that I'll say on YouTube. But our private Thursday meetings, you will not be invited to. So everybody has to sign the non-disclosure. Okay. The non-disclosure is available now, but from my understanding from legal and my, I have someone who is I call him a fact checker. What he does is he lines up documents and dates on our website to make sure we're doing everything ethically and legally. So I have a person doing that. And to this juncture, he's done a good job doing it. Okay. So go take a look at the website, thecommunityREIT.com, REIT, the community REIT. Again, we're going to make 40,000 millionaires. 40,000 millionaires. Well, we brought up not a sore subject, but we brought up a subject in one of our conversations. You can check it now. It's on TikTok. It's on YouTube now. And the question was about Jay Morrison. Okay. And why do I like to bring up Jay Morrison? First of all, I don't like to knock any brother. I just don't. I don't like to knock any brother. But I can tell you guys, since you'll ask the question, what is the difference between us and Jay Morrison? Because I've heard it before. So let me explain. The difference between us and Jay Morrison, if you've been privy to the conversations we've had on Thursdays, you'll realize that I have the environmental relationships that Jay Morrison did. That's what the brother didn't have. See, let me explain something to you guys. People that work in certain environments are very finicky. Okay, what does that mean? Jay Morrison got a bunch of Black people excited. Okay, some of them professional Black people. Okay, but they weren't the heads of the largest architectural firms in the world. They weren't the head. They weren't anybody that could write a $2 billion bond and that kind of stuff, right? They weren't anybody that were invested in Jay Morrison. They may have been invested financially with a few dollars, but they didn't have the ability to move things, right? So when Jay Morrison started floundering, okay, what I mean by that, I don't think the brother intentionally did anything wrong, okay? I think he started floundering and he didn't have a backup plan. He didn't have a backup plan, okay? And that's unfortunate. But remember this, anybody that's listened to the sound of my voice, this is why they say blossom where you are. Does anybody know what that means? This is why they say blossom where you are. You blossom where you are because when you blossom where you are, you have the help. He didn't have the help around him, okay? And there's a guy online, you guys have probably heard of him too. He bashes everybody. It's a Black guy. So he's one of those guys that hates himself because he bashes everybody. He's bashing the hell out of Jay Morrison. But I'm gonna tell y'all something. I don't know if the brother, because he's lost over $11 billion. I mean, $1 million. I'm sorry, dollar. He'd probably be dead if he lost 11 billion. But I don't think the brother intentionally did anything wrong. I just don't think he had the professional relationships to maintain what he was doing. And see, that's where someone, one of my mentees, who's an educated guy, asked me about he's reading the book, The Trap Wall Street Guy. And I'm like, man, let me explain something to you. One of the things that those brothers don't understand is that they always had the aptitude. And anybody who listens to the sound of my voice, you understand that. You can have an aptitude. You got people in the projects with great aptitudes. But in their younger years, they didn't have any kind of discipline to work on somebody's job. Okay? And this ain't knocking nobody. I want everybody that even if anybody come from the street and want to go into the professional environment, do that. But take the time to get the experience on somebody's job. Or when you do start blowing up online and people start trusting you, hire somebody alongside you. Look, that's what Bill Gates did. Who do y'all think Wozniak was? Wozniak was the guy that knew what the fuck he was talking about. Steve Jobs, same thing. Steve Jobs, all he knew to do was run a business. He didn't know any damn thing about a phone. Okay? Well, y'all brothers do the same thing. If it's something that I don't know, I'm going to identify the person that does. You understand? So look, guys, I gotta go. I'm glad I got the opportunity to share what I'm sharing with you guys, and I'll continue to do this. Um, but guys, get involved in a plan. Everybody on here, promise me by liking the screen, you're going to get involved in something. Please don't just spend $500 a week on clothes, and invest your money in something black. All right. If anybody wants to know anything about the community REIT, DM me. But also, please go on the website and read every inch of that website. Read every inch of that website. The Community REIT. Somebody leave the name right here and the link to The Community REIT. It's THE Community, all spelled out, REIT.com. THE Community, all spelled out, REIT.com. You guys have a blessed night. You guys on YouTube have a blessed night. And I'm going to be doing this very often. I'm going to be going deeper and deeper into details as we move forward. But in order to get our private meetings, you're going to have to sign a non-disclosure. And ma'am, I did see you. The non-disclosure is being updated. I actually have to get it notarized. So I'll have that done by Friday. You have my word. So by Friday, go online. You can download the LOI, the letter of intent, and the non-disclosure, sign it, and then email it back to us. All right? Thank you, guys, and God bless you. And thank you, guys. Go back and watch our videos, guys. You'll be impressed.